and welcome to the Grow Your Occupancy podcast. Happy New Year edition. I'm Julie Podewitz, CEO and founder, and today I welcome Alex Smith to the show. Welcome, Alex.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. Really honored to be here.
Well, I understand this is your very first podcast that you've ever been a guest on, and I'm quite honored. So thanks for joining us.
Yes, great. And I wouldn't rather have my first one be with anyone else. So thanks, Julie.
Thanks. It's really going to be fun, and you've got so much information, and I really am very excited about this topic. Alex is the Senior Vice President of Pricing Optimization. A little bit at Further, and a little bit more about Alex. He has an extensive background in senior living that dates all the way back to 2001. And you worked in a community level, and you've had an extended career at companies such as Brookdale, 5-Star, Elmcroft, and others. And you have a great passion for serving seniors and their family. And about 5 years ago, Alex decided that he wanted to master the art of pricing in our industry. And this is a topic that is so top of mind, right? He is a certified pricing professional through the Professional Pricing Society. I didn't know anything existed. He developed a software called, oh my goodness, CompIntelPro. You recently sold it to Further, and now you are building upon that product with Further, called the Further Pricing Assistant. So again, welcome, Alex.
Great. Thank you for having me. Yes, it's been and believe it or not, there is such a society. I had to search it out, but it's very fascinating when I was able to learn all about it and learn how, people come together from all different industries to really just on the topic of really the art and science of pricing. And I just became a huge fan and really just really focused in on it. It just made me even more enthusiastic and I'm excited about the possibilities.
Well, I've learned a lot from you in the short time that we've known each other, just about a year. And today's topic is knowing your competition and knowing your own product and the importance of rates and really the competitive data set, right? Knowing, where you should fall in your local community. I know you're really passionate about knowing your competition. And Alex, why is this so important?
I think it started, very early in my career as a sales director. Just very simply, having to kind of stop everything you were doing to collect this data that was so critical and so usually needed in less than 48 hours. And we would run around and get it, and then we'd send it up to corporate office, and we go, oh, wow, we really did a good job there, and we got all our comps, and they know the pricing, and so hey, maybe we're going to have some really good strategy. And then just oftentimes, and not always, but oftentimes wondering, did that just go into like an alien spaceship? Did anyone ever look at this comp analysis that took me out of the selling zone for a little bit of time? But also, but I guess the biggest frustration was like, hey, was anyone looking at this? We told them about the new renovation of our competitor or new development, and it didn't seem like there was a lot of action in some cases, again, not in all. And so that's kind of at a simple level. At that very simple level, I always held that with me as I grew into different positions, regional director or regional vice presidents and different roles as I kind of ran up the industry. I wanted the sales directors to know, give them the feedback. We're using this. We're talking about this. This information was vital. And then on a whole nother level, I saw some really good sales directors in my career that maybe had their tenure cut short a little faster than I would have liked, because as a executive team, we didn't position them. We didn't support them in the right ways that helped them and put them in a position for success. And so my very first thing, whenever I was going to a region or take over a division, was let's make sure we erase all the variables, right? Let's make sure if this is a sales issue, then let's isolate that for sure. And the best way I could do that was make sure I had updated comp analysis on my region, and I wanted to ensure that we were not massively out, our pricing wasn't massively out of, you know, um, where it should be, and so it's like,
Mhm.
we can be higher or lower, it doesn't matter, but I had situations we were 30-40% higher and we needed to do
Right.
twice the volume we needed to do. Well, was that fair to put my sales director in that type of position? So that's kind of where my passion lies. It lies really like trying to defend, those great sales directors that are in the field and put them in a position of success. And then, so that was the key. And then later on, it became, how do we stop firefighting in our business?
Mhm.
Right? We're always focused on, pricing or the fire in our community, in our portfolio. So trying to figure out, okay, I'm going to spend, 3 days a week at this particular community that's, tanking in occupancy. Meanwhile, we have another community that's doing well, but there are things starting to fall apart at that. And so you just spend your whole day, sometimes week by week, just firefighting. Some of
Right.
those firefights could have been prevented by some strategic pricing earlier on in the year, and so a better kind of outlook on the competition. We could have had a proactive approach and not spend our whole year, therefore our whole career, firefighting
Mhm.
situation. So
Oh, yes, it's sacrificing the
this is a
important.
major, and I find many times, knowing your competition, understanding the pricing in each market, it can be crucial between, between success and failure in this business.
No, you make a lot of great points, Alex, and the sacrifice, it happens to all of us, sacrificing the important, right? For the at the sake of the urgent, and urgent important is of course critical, but oftentimes it's urgent and it feels important, but is it to sacrifice the important? When So you mentioned a lot of things that I'd like to kind of drill down on, but the time that, as a CSO, BPS sales, regional, the time spent collecting this and Excel spreadsheets and then who's got, the monkey, like who's got it over here and hot potato and which one is the most recent.
Right.
That was like almost, it felt almost like a full-time job, right? And
Yes.
if this is the competitive set, is very often what owners, investors want to see almost weekly on review calls. What's a competition doing? So,
Mhm.
a couple things. Pricing, of course, is critical, but what else, in addition to price? And of course, there's many factors there. But what else is important in regard to knowing your competition? Like what other information should we really know?
I think, I mean, obviously, price point is usually where people start in doing that. I think, it's so important to understand, what, really what your differentiators are. Not only that your competition, but that how your particular community differentiates itself in that particular market, which I think is one of the challenges with our comp analysis and our pricing in our industry, just because we are multi-site, right? Your strength as an organization, may not, I use an example, like you may have this wonderful, patented, copyrighted memory care program that you feel like, hey, this is our strength as a company. Well, that may be your strength in, one market, in think of one of my Mountain Home, Arkansas, right? That might be the very best program. That's what you lead with. But if you take that same program and you put it in Scottsdale, Arizona, it may not be a differentiator. You might have to find something else. So each one of your communities has to identify what is my position specifically in 55 different markets, let's call it. And so that's a challenge, but I believe that's the most important thing that you can do, because that drives your marketing, your sales, and your pricing as well.
No, it's a great point. The second thing is collecting all this data. You mentioned, your experience. I know mine at the community level has been many years ago. We were also required or I've been required to have once a quarter, sit down with your peers, you're getting the information. And we all know, a lot of this information is there's a lot of great providers there that will do comp shops and things like that. And not just the rates, but also the concessions or incentives or specials and all of those areas of importance. But I mean, gosh, what's the best way to go about, in your opinion, in collecting the data and storing it?
Yeah, I think, early on in the early days, obviously we would, and you were definitely not allowed to do that nowadays, but you would literally just go around and collect it. You call your friends, and they, that work at the other communities. And I was usually
Right,
a very good networker. And so
right,
everyone said, yeah, come on over, I'll give you mine, you give me yours, and so forth. And I think, and again, some of that information, obviously, depending how close you were to them, would be accurate. Some would be inaccurate. My opinion is, I think the best way to collect it is to use, like I said, there's a lot of great companies that do the mystery shops. I like that approach. Because they're getting it from, at least we feel like they're getting it from, this is what they're telling the customer, right? This is,
right.
if they're mystery shopping, they're going to hear the incentives, they're going to hear the sales approach and things like that. And especially some of the organizations where you can hear the call, you can kind of hear their sales pitch, against yours. And then you're actually getting, I feel like you're getting more reliable data when you're using a third party. So the second reason is because of the selling zone. And Julie, I mean, this is one thing that, I'm a big fan of yours as far as, in everything, but the content you share is like just the sales basics and being able to, really focus in on the families. And when you're doing this comp analysis, that's not necessarily the skill set of the sales director to do a thorough comp analysis. They'll be able to, get you pricing and maybe some basic information, but it's not their expertise, and it takes them out of the selling zone,
Yeah, good point.
And I just, that's why I'm a big fan of, working with the third party to get that and doing the mystery shop format. There's other ways that people get, people rely on other organizations, but I won't say the organization, but where it's more voluntarily given. That data is given through a survey. And I think that has to be taken with a grain of salt. It's like, because they're voluntarily given, we don't know, is that occupancy actually true? Is that incentive or the rate that they're giving voluntarily actually true? But by hearing, by getting it from mystery shop company, they're getting it from a perspective of what the customer was hearing, which is really the data that we need.
Well, there are, like you said, there are a lot of great organizations across the country that provide mystery shops. We'll add, a couple of shout outs to the podcast when we're promoting it. We do. Grow Your Occupancy does a bit of it. Primo Solutions, of course, Mike Miller, Senior Resource Consulting,
Yes.
they come to mind, and others will come to mind if anyone out there listening would like to get some mystery shops or just some more information about how to implement them or who to use, who to recommend. Please, reach out. What advice, Alex, would you give a company looking to enhance this area of their business, knowing their competitive set, pricing, where they fall, how to stay competitive?
Yeah, I think the most important area to kind of enhance this is, I think, and I didn't mention this earlier, but I believe when we're doing, first of all, have a mystery shop partner like the ones that you just mentioned. Definitely believe that's absolutely key. I mean, you're going to need that partner for those on the fly type shops. But my recommendation is to have the first part is like have a really good process of gathering the data, right? So there's different processes here that we've kind of analyzed. Like we have our processes of data collection and our partners with that. And then we talk about how do we, store that data? How do we then analyze that data in a way that's going to create actionable intelligence? And so in my mind, this is the way I think about this. And so your first step is, really understanding, okay, who's my shop partner, right? You got to have that partner that, you set up and that you can call on the fly basis, which happens, right? We heard they're doing a,
Right.
$1,000 off a month, and can you call them real quick, and your partner will be able to help you on the fly. But as a base, I recommend having all of your community shopped on a regular cadence. I would prefer it be quarterly, because especially coming up here in 2023, and a lot of people know this, there has been a huge shakeup in pricing in
Yeah.
2023 with, and everyone has started to see this. We've started to seen it already. I heard we saw it, we're starting to see it at the end of the year. We're seeing 10-15% increases, in certain portfolios. So you're relying on a shop that was even 6 months ago, you're going to be way off, you're potentially way off, and I think what's going to happen is you're going to see organizations kind of shifting and adjusting more regularly than we normally seen it. Before, years ago, you'd set the price at the beginning of the year, right?
Yeah.
And then you got to write it out.
Right.
And if you're with maybe if you have a certain financial structure, you couldn't change the price, but you'd have to do a pretty fancy concession throughout the year. So I think we're going to see a lot of that, especially this year. So quarterly shops, for your whole portfolio. And the reason I say whole portfolio, because I see too many companies, they do the shops just for we're going to do the shops just for our low occupancy communities, our concerning communities. The problem with that is that's what's contributing to what I call the firefighting, right? You're focused in on until you fix it, then you fix it, and then what happens? The community that was stabilized is now, because that doesn't happen overnight. When a community, and you know this better than I, Julie, when a community starts to slip in occupancy, a lot of that did not happen overnight. There were leading indicators there in the market or in the organization or in the community level that could have told you that those things are starting to slip. And so the firefighting will never end if we keep, it's just going to be this never ending loop. And so if I can see that, hey, look, I'm looking at across my whole portfolio at once, then I can start seeing where things are kind of out of shape. And I use an example of, I had a CCRC in Santa Rosa, California. This was years ago, and I had California was my region, and I was so focused on these 3 buildings down in Southern California, and they took all of my time because the investors wanted to know. I was, like you said, the investors are calling me for reports weekly. I mean, I was exhausted just for those communities. I had to remind myself, hey, I need to go and visit Santa Rosa and give them a pat on the back and say, great job. But what I noticed when I took over the portfolios, I knew that they were 40% above the market. I knew it, but we weren't going to change the rate. I mean, they were 100% occupied, the highest margin community I think in the company, one of the top 5 in the company. But slowly things were shifting in the market. And one of them was a new competitor came into play, a brand new development, as well as a acquisition of a current development that wasn't really a player, but it was a complete renovation. And now they became a player. And then we started to see the attrition rate at the community start to double, even triple. So we were losing residents by 3 or 4 times the amount we were used to. So the community was, they would have to do 3 move-ins a month. At 40% above market, that's okay, fine, we could do it. But next thing you know, we had to replace 6 move-ins a month.
Right.
8 and then 12.
Right.
And we weren't able to react quick enough because we weren't being proactive. In this case, I was not being proactive. So, this is a story of a failure but it's a pain point that constantly reminds me of, if I was paying equal attention to that community, I could have made smaller adjustments in order to save the occupancy at the community. Because at the end of the day, we ended up going all the way down to 60%, and then, like drastically having to incentivize, versus if we would have made the smaller shifts early, we wouldn't have had to do that. And so that's an example of why you should be looking across your whole portfolio at all times. The other reason is, you could be leaving revenue on the table at communities where you are having success. So if the community is 100%, that means you have a lot of demand for your product. And so are you truly, and we're not saying that we're trying to gouge people in the market, but if you're a premier product in the market and you could get $500 more on a community fee or 3% more on a studio rate, I think you've earned that in that market, so.
Yeah, yeah,
And
good point.
yeah, so anyway, that I would say that would be the most important. I'd follow that with
Yeah,
having a synergistic comp intel process. So who's involved in your process? Is it just your sales team? Does it go from sales director to regional sector just to sales, or is the team involved? Are the community teams all aligned with the regional teams and the corporate teams on what our differentiators are? And I know that's hard to do because everyone's so hard in their own lane, if you will, trying to do their jobs. But to be able to get together and align, hey guys, maintenance director, clinical team, even housekeeping, sales, operations, what's our differentiator here? What's our strength? What can we get better on? And have alignment throughout. And then one of the key things I learned in the pricing education and the pricing society was it's one of the biggest things missing in many organizations to really achieve the highest price point, which is the disalignment between either from the levels in the company, so from vice president to regional to community teams, or cross-functional teams not understanding what the value proposition is of that community. And a prime example of this is, I went to a community, several communities, and asked this question, and I challenge people on this podcast to do this. Go into your executive director's office, close the door, and just ask, what's your value proposition here?
yeah,
What is the strength of this
absolutely.
community? And then go to your
Agree.
sales director
Yeah,
and do the same and see if they match.
right.
And I'm just curious what the
Good
feedback
challenge.
in my position, in my
Yeah.
experience, there may be some things, but for the most part, I found they were not aligned.
No, right, right.
So I would say that would be a good challenge to see where you stand as far as your differentiators and your alignment.
No, good, excellent, excellent. And we're just coming to the end of our time, but one of the things that I'd love to do part two, because some of the things that you're talking about when, dynamic rates and I remember doing a talk at a conference about dynamic rates and even transparency of rates. And it was about 8 years ago, and people were walking out. They were not happy with that at all. And we're getting, now, of course, with transparency of rates, and we are, an industry that will be leaning in more on the dynamic rate, however that works, right? However, it's, like you said, it's not the set it and forget it January 1st and through. There's a lot of moving pieces and parts that go into all of this. Your pricing assistant, and we won't talk in depth about it. If anyone listening would like to learn more, please reach out to Alex. But when you showed me and allowed me to play around in it, what I like about it is we're moving away from the spreadsheets. It's in real time. You get your data in there, and there's so much information. when I look at it, I think, oh my goodness, the owners or investors, operators, taking a look at this, and then you can just pretty much update it. It's all in real time. And so it's of course it's the rate, right? And what affects the rate? Why is the rate what it is, and why are you the price leader? Should you be the price leader? And
Right.
really looking at like you said, the complete data from a holistic standpoint, not like, well, we got to do 10% increase, and then we're the highest price, and that's because we're the best. Are you the best?
Right.
Is that real? Are we demonstrating that? And like you said, what might be the best in Scottsdale, Arizona might not be, in Midland, Michigan. You make a lot of really, really great points. So Alex, it's early 2023. What's on your plan, personally, professionally, for this year?
Well, I'd say, personally, I have a drive to start, being the head coach of my son's flag football team. So I'm really excited about that. I've never had the goal. I've kind of sat in the back, but that's the goal this year. He's been begging me to do it. And it's been I was in sports and the captain of my baseball team in high school, and be nice to get out there in the field again, smell the grass, and lead my son. So that's a goal of mine. But I've been very timid about it. But yeah, that would be a personal goal for sure.
I love that. How old is your son?
8 years old. Yeah.
8 years old. Okay. Well, I say jump right into that one and bring your camera along. We'll take some.
Yeah, I will.
Take
Yeah,
some video of that.
if we don't win, I'll be kicked off the team. So. Yeah, then probably professionally, so exciting. We're so excited about what we're going to be unveiling here this year at Further, because and I just feel so blessed because Further and the team there believed in this early on. It was something I was kind of building on my own at night, and to be able to have the backing of this team has been amazing. So we're going to be unveiling some really cool features in the next couple months, Julie, which I'm excited to share with you here shortly. Brand new design, some additional features. Again, everything we're building is about making this easier and more efficient for our teams. For our sales teams, in the field, keeping them in the selling zone, keeping the regional team in the regional selling zone, and keeping the corporate team focused on people and processes. And so everything we're doing is to create efficiencies in this competitive intelligence process. And so I'm really excited for that, and excited to partner more with you, Julie, and some of our other partners in the industry. This is going to be an amazing year. I feel really excited about 2023, for us in what we do, and with this pricing assistant as well. So.
Well, that's awesome. I am, again, very grateful for you jumping on our Happy New Year podcast, Alex. And I'm excited also for 2023 for all the reasons you mentioned and more. And the feeling in the buzz, it feels great. It meaning the energy around our business and our determination, a collective determination to keep pushing the boulder uphill, or just at least holding it steady so it doesn't roll back and roll back over us, which is a win many a day.
Absolutely.
So again, Alex Smith from Further and his pricing assistant. If someone wanted some information or meet you or talk to you, how would they get a hold of you, Alex?
They can, reach out to me. We have our website, pricing assistant at talkfurther.com. And then also I'm on LinkedIn. Usually I'm commenting right beside Julie. So you could reach out to me directly as well. You can email me to it, simply Alex@talkfurther. It's probably the quickest way, but I look forward to talking to people more about this. But it's been a pleasure to be on this podcast, my very first one ever, and I'm glad I was with you and talking about this subject. So this is amazing.
That's great. Well, you were awesome. You are awesome, Alex. You're a wealth of information. I appreciate it. Julie Podewitz at growyouroccupancy.com. If you have need for any and everything sales marketing related, including mystery shops, we are certainly here to steer you in the right direction, whether it's with us or another phenomenal senior living professional who will deliver fantastic service to you. Thanks again, Alex.
All right. Thank you. Bye.
Bye.